Hello, I'm Earl, and welcome to Speaking About Everything. Well, on Speaking About Everything, we don't have a surprise for you. Really, I have a surprise. She's been here before. Very dynamic young lady. And I'm sure you've seen her years ago right here on Speaking About Everything and on Earl Gibbs Live. She's a very dynamic business woman in St. Martin. Her name is Miss Ife Badejo. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Sorry for that long introduction. It normally goes very fast.
No, that was perfect. That was amazing. I need to record you and have you do intros for me all the time.
That's nice. This show is going to be a profile on you as a business person.
Yeah.
What's the safest way to say? Business person, businesswoman.
Entrepreneur, Islandpreneur. I guess
that's the name of your business.
That's the name of my business. Yes.
Islandpreneur.
Islandpreneur is the best fit.
How you came up with that name?
That's such a good question. So I was venting online about challenges of getting paid online, and I was venting on Facebook, and I think I wrote something like Confessions of an Islandpreneur as the heading, right? Because my brain makes up words sometimes. And a friend of mine messaged me and DM'd me, and he said, if you don't use that, I will. And I said, don't even touch it. And then that's the birth of the name. That was in 2018, I believe it was. And then that same year we did an event, and then it grew over the years. In 2020, we were going to do a huge event, but we know what happened in 2020. Life changed. We had a global pandemic.
Right.
And so we went online and still did a very sizable event. We had 650 people registered online.
Wow.
We had more than 500 people a day online. We had different keynotes from all over the world, people streaming from over 35 countries. And so then that was a very big validation that what we were doing was needed. So we continued with it.
It's good. Now, you come from a very well-known family. You're Richardson, too.
Yeah.
The biggest family in St. Martin. They have Badejo, and then they have Richardson. I didn't know you was a Richardson.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I tell people all the time, don't leave the Badejo last name fool you. So Badejo hails from the wonderful country of Nigeria. My father is Nigerian.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And it comes from a royal lineage. And yes, my mom is a Richardson. My roots are very deep in St. Martin, both French and that side. I'm related to the Baileys from Freetown and St. Louis on the French side, and that entire family. And my Richardson comes from Eric the Butcher brother, John Williams.
Wow. That's really big.
And then there's Phillips from Miller Region. And I mean, if I start to go down the history, then I'm pretty much related to everybody on St. Martin.
and your mother was the first Minister of Education from St. Martin in the old Nelson days, right?
Yes, and the first female minister as well.
First female I met. So,
yes, the first female minister for education, culture, sports, and women affairs, I believe was her portfolio. She was the second female minister at the time, the first being Maria Liberia Peters, who also has roots in St. Martin. Yeah. And so I have always had big shoes that have walked in front of me and paved the way for so many women and people in so many different regards. So that's mom on that side. Education, also there was a point where she had her business. I helped her to run the business when I was a teenager. She did the first St. Martin Small Business Convention and Expo. And so that was amazing. She had Merrill Lynch there and Entrepreneur Magazine there and all of that. Yeah. And so that also has definitely impacted me and shaped me to continue to carry the torch in that area.
And your father's been a publisher, writer, author.
Yes.
Playwright. He does ghostwriting too?
He does a lot of ghostwriting. He's not a ghost, but he does a lot of ghostwriting.
Explain it quick for people who don't understand so they know what it is.
So he writes on behalf of others and help them to bring their stories, thoughts, speeches to life. And he's the one who actually wrote it. So, yeah.
And nobody knows, but...
Nobody knows that it's him, but he's written.
He's a very good
Yes, my dad is Fabian Badejo is what I consider to be one of the ultimate communication geniuses. And so the combination of his communication genius and my mom's drive and passion for progress has been the perfect culmination for what it is that I do.
All right. And where were you born?
On St. Martin, St. Rose Hospital in Phillipsburg.
St. Rose Hospital?
Yes.
I think with all the travel that your parents were doing, maybe you were born somewhere else.
I was almost born in the air.
Really?
Yeah, so I love to travel. I think that's part of it. I was almost born in the air. My mom was in her last trimester when she came back to St. Martin. And that's not necessarily the time that you're supposed to be traveling.
Oh, yeah.
Because anything can happen in the last trimester, obviously. But yes, I was born at St. Rose Hospital in Phillipsburg, before it was the St. Rose Arcade, for those who want to know where the St. Rose Hospital was. Yeah.
All right. And you have siblings?
Yes, I do. I have an older brother in Spain, and his beautiful family. And I have most people don't know about him because he hasn't been to St. Martin often. So when we're over in Europe, we go and revisit him. And then I have my younger brother, who is the head of IT for the government of St. Martin, and my sister, who's a data analyst for Meta. Meta is the company behind Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. So she is a senior data analyst there.
That's good. Mm-hmm. So
I'm the odd one out. Yeah. Everybody's tech, and I'm tech adjacent.
Well, at least you're doing something positive.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
What's definitely important. Now, you went to school in St. Martin? No?
Yes, I went to the Methodist Agoric Center in elementary school. Yes, wow. I'm an alum from MAC, which was an incredible foundation for me, and all of the ones that I went to school with. At the time, they had MAC stars, so I was one of the MAC stars, which meant that I was in the top 5 of the highest grade people. Yeah. For 6th grade, and that afforded me a scholarship for my first year at St. Martin Academy.
That's good.
So when the first year at St. Martin Academy, I earned my way in, and then I graduated St. Martin Academy, and I stayed here because my mom was also president at the time of the University of St. Martin and one of the founding members for the University of St. Martin, and so I also went to the University of St. Martin. So I've been through elementary, secondary, and even tertiary education in St. Martin before leaving to study and explore the world elsewhere.
So you went to study where, in the Netherlands or in the...
So I went to Florida State first, came back, worked in hospitality for a little while, was getting very comfortable in hospitality. I was an activities director at Oyster Bay Beach Resort, and it was the perfect job for me. It was my only real job. And I got paid to have fun. And then after that, I went to the Netherlands, and I lived in the Netherlands for almost a decade before I came back to St. Martin.
That long you stayed there?
Yeah, I had a 5-year plan, and it just got extended.
And did you study when you were there? Or just...
Yes, I studied. I started out at the University of Amsterdam in economics, actually. Then I switched over to marketing. And then I left school and went and started my business.
All right. In case you just joined us, I'm Earl Gibbs here on Speaking About Everything with the one and only Miss Ife Badejo. She's my guest. She's a young St. Martin business person, lady. I just trying to be cautious and using it. You know, today it's so strange because there's some people don't want you to use a certain word to describe them. You know,
True.
It never used to be like that. So
True. Nowadays, you have to be a lot more careful about the titles you use. Yes, it's true.
But you know, it's good to have you here because I think a lot of people see you and don't realize. I know more younger people know what you're doing. What do you think people should know about you?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think you're the only person who's ever asked me that question. Or
ask strange weird question. You know?
That's a very good question. They should know that, one, I love St. Martin. I love my family. I love God. But I do love St. Martin. And the reason why I say that is because I truly believe in our people, that they are creative, that they are intelligent, that they're capable, that they have everything in them to take it to the next level. And I think oftentimes the challenge with us moving forward as a country, as a people, is that we don't believe that for ourselves. And so other people come in and try to dictate that and determine that for us. And so I think the more that we believe in who we are as a people, not just as a person, but as a people, I think that you would see unimaginable successes and opportunities created. Last night, for example, I had a dinner with a friend and we were talking about those before us who was, when you looked at business, it was those from St. Martin, families that had roots in St. Martin. And we love diversity. Diversity is very important. In nature, you have biodiversity because that's the way that you allow for cross-pollination and for growth and for progress. We get that. And at the same time, when you look around now, it's almost like a dying breed to have successful businesses from those who have deep roots in the island. And I think that that is a missed opportunity. I think we can learn from each other. Those that come, we can learn from them. But those that reach here, they can learn from us. And because we don't value us enough, we don't see that. And that's for me is a bit sad, but that's also what propels me to do Islandpreneur, because Islandpreneur says to the world that we are of equal value.
So you left that job you had that you love so much at the hotel.
Oyster Bay Beach.
Yeah. And you went to the Netherlands. You came back. And how did the idea of Islandpreneur came to you? How you started it?
So I always wanted to do work in entrepreneurship development. Just a quick history. When I was about 8-9 years old, my father was co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Guardian, the newspaper that paved the way for what the newspaper industry looked like and revolutionized certain things. It was a daily newspaper. It was run by ads. People sold it on the side of the road and they got 100% of the commissions, right? That model did not exist prior. So he was a disruptor in what we would consider a disruptor in the newspaper business at the time. And one summer, my brother and I my parents sat us down and said, we don't have no money for traveling and all of that kind of stuff. You guys are old enough to work. They put us to work. I was 8-9 years old. My brother was about 7 or 6. And Femi at the time was a lot smaller than I was. And so we had to sell newspapers and 100% of the profits went to us. And so I didn't like the idea of selling newspapers on the side of the road in the hot sun on Front Street at 8-9 years old. I don't know why I thought that was a little bit like...
But you were making money.
I didn't see it that way. I was like, who does this? So I had learned fractions and my brother, who was always in my math books, had learned the same fractions. And I was trying to negotiate that I give him a quarter. He negotiated half. And so I paid my brother half of the revenues to sell my newspapers. And I stayed inside in the air condition, played games, doodled, read books, do that kind of a thing. That was my first taste of freedom as an entrepreneur. That was the first time that I realized, wait, I don't have to work hard. I could work smart. Like, I got my brother to do this work. Now, the reality is he made 150% off of me, right? So he had his 100% and my 50%. But I got paid 50% to have fun and freedom. I loved it. Fast forward, I'm 18 years old. I'm in Miami. And I got certified as a youth entrepreneurship trainer. And I see this 8-year-old walk into the door and do a 90-second pitch with these 2 young ladies. And he needed $1,000 to start his lemonade franchise that he wanted to do in the Southeast. And he walked away with $10,000 because he was so impressive. And in that moment, I said, I want to commit to helping people do that. I say all of that to say that Islandpreneur is the latest iteration of me doing entrepreneurship development. So entrepreneurship development has always been a part of what I do. I always wanted to educate people, make people aware, connect people, and give people the tools, information, resources, and relationships that will allow them to grow. And so I did that previously with the Power Agency, which was a bit of a more co-working space. When that ended, I had to pivot. And so Islandpreneur was the last pivot, but Islandpreneur happens to be the best version of all of that I've been able to do.
So it's 5 years now since you're doing that.
Yeah. Yes.
So how it works? People come to you, or you go to them. I'm curious.
Love that question. Oftentimes people hear about what it is that we're doing and they come to us. What we've been able to do in the past 3 years, especially, we worked closely with the Ministry of Finance in the previous administration and in the current administration to do projects that expand entrepreneurship knowledge. One of the more successful projects, something that we're very proud of, is the National Youth Pitch Competition, where we worked with over a total of 120 young people. And they went through an accelerator program, and all of our partners in the different spheres would come and share their information, share their knowledge. They learn about business, and then they pitched. And then when they pitching mean that they went and they stood on stage, told people about their business, all of that. And when they did that, the winning team would get 10,000 guilders and a trip to Atlanta and be submersed into education and entrepreneurship ecosystem. So that was really, really an amazing opportunity. But oftentimes they find us online, they find us through word of mouth, they find our email, and usually there's a strategy call. We try to figure out, okay, what is the best option for them, because we have several different things going on. Recently, we launched our inner circle. So those in the inner circle are sharing with their friends, this is what I'm learning in the inner circle. You need to be a part of the inner circle. And so it's a combination of coaching, events, and media, actually, that allows us to do what we do.
All right, kids, just joined us. Summer Gibbs here and speaking about everything with Miss Ife Badejo. And when we come back, we'll continue to speak with her right here on YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio station. Please do this.
We are vibrant, expressive, warm, and diverse. Together, we conquer, and now we expand into new horizons, giving you more of the best. Introducing our new Bankomatico Plus with wider acceptance, purchase protection, and enhanced security. Whether you're online, traveling, or in paradise, experience more with Windward Island Bank. Bankomatico Plus, more of the best.
This is Speaking of Everything. I'm Roll Gibbs here with Miss Ife Badejo of Islandpreneur. She is founder, chief executive officer, president, managing director. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. Chief experience officer too.
Okay.
I wear a lot of hats.
Right. No, I saw a guy business card when I was in the state recently, and he had all these titles. You know, says it's his company.
Yeah.
He does everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oftentimes, especially in the earlier years, you're doing everything. I'm very excited about what's happening in the space of AI.
That's fascinating.
Oh my goodness.
Fascinating.
We're changing a few things in our business because of it. And then, of course, we have an amazing team that helps us to do the execution of a lot of the events that we do. And we've grown. We were now doing an event in Curacao.
Really?
Yes, August 27th to the 29th.
Wow.
And
What kind of event is there?
so we're so into AI that we've created AI Islands for entrepreneurs. So at AI Islands, you'll learn not just about AI, but you'll be able to walk away with a tool that you built during with the help of our experts. We're going to talk about financing, we're going to talk about marketing, we're going to talk about ops, but everything through the lens of AI. Yeah, so very excited about that.
That's good. You know, and Gorilla's making money from that, eh?
It is.
You don't realize what the domain name is.
The domain name is actually accounting for the third highest revenue generator in Anguilla right now.
I heard it's over 100 million somewhere there.
It's close.
That's a lot of money.
It's close,
Yeah.
and that's annual.
Yeah.
In the next 5 years or so, possibly less, I can foresee that it would be the largest revenue generating
For the government.
for the government. That means that it would bypass even taxes as an income earner for government. So for people to understand, like my sister and I was talking about this yesterday, and I'm like, I don't know if they would go that route, but Anguilla can decide in a few years, depending on how much money they're getting, that they don't need to do taxes. They could just sit on this AI money for a while. But yeah, I think it's very interesting what AI is doing in the world. And for that reason, we decided to pivot in many regards, doubling down on AI, helping entrepreneurs to better understand AI and how they could use it in their business to increase profitability, productivity. And we're also super excited that the central bank is one of our partners. So we're going to be hosting AI Islands at Central Bank in Curacao.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I was at that building in 1985, a long time ago, when we did a special in Curacao when we interviewed the person who was in charge
Yes.
at that time. Curacao was a great island.
It is a great island. There's a lot of innovation that's happening in Curacao, in the fintech spaces, in the tech space, in data. A lot of things are happening in Curacao. And also, Curacao is now being known to the world. So a lot more tourists are going to Curacao as well. They've increased their numbers. I think it was something like 3x in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
So they're growing fast also as a tourist destination.
And very friendly. Everyone is saying, when I was there in 85 and 88, they weren't that friendly, but understand now they're very friendly.
Yeah, and also they've positioned themselves in different ways, right? So you have the UNESCO heritage parts of Punda and Otrobanda that are sacred and saved. And so you can walk into history, you could walk on the floating bridge, you can explore beach. There's so many different things that you can do there. And I think that they understand that in order for them to compete, they also have to be friendly and welcoming and things of that nature. Curacao still has its challenges. Every island does. However, we did our event there last year. We were very excited about what we saw. So we committed to doing it again this year. And this year we just changed it to AI Islands to kind of double down on that part of it. But there's a lot of amazing things that are happening in Curacao.
What do you say is the most challenging thing for you and your business?
Oh, how much time do we have, Oral? This is a limited interview. The biggest challenge I still have, and the biggest challenge that many other islandpreneurs have, is how do they get paid online? And so, yes, because if you're looking at the markets are small and the cost of living is high.
Okay.
So that means that you would have to, by default, access different markets. And it's not as, even though in the past 5 to 7 years, there have been different technological advances, and also even the legislation has been improved or being improved, in the process of being improved to allow for these things, because that is also necessary. We're not there yet. And what I've seen even this past week is that more and more people are going into other markets to get access to fintech technologies. That's what they call it, financial technologies. So I was at McDonald's, for example, and someone is paying with their phone. I know for sure that when you pay for your phone, you're not having a local bank account. No bank on St. Martin is connected to your Google Pay or to your Apple Pay. So that means that you have a US account or a European account. And we see more of that happening. And I don't think that people recognize how big of a challenge it is, because the entrepreneur of today wants to be able to sell their product on Shopify, on Etsy. They want to be able to have their payments in. They want to be able to do that. And they would prefer that it lands in a local account. But if it doesn't, they'll find another way.
That's quite interesting, because you said you're partnering with the central bank. It's so unfortunate that the banks here in the Dutch Caribbean, Curacao and St. Martin, I'm speaking about now, issue cards that are not international. So it creates an issue when you are shopping online with certain companies. I hope that could be changed, because if that's changed, then you can go over to what you just said there, because you can't use your MasterCard or Visa now for Apple Pay. It's not possible.
Well, this problem is a very complex problem. So in 2017, in January, I made a big statement that ended up in the paper saying that small businesses will die unless we have online payment processing. Small businesses are not dying, obviously.
That make it difficult.
But what small businesses are doing is they're finding ways to be able to survive, much less thrive. To your point about the cards, recently there has been a changeover with many of the banks to either use Visa or MasterCard. And so the physical cards are out there now. Some of them are still adjusting, because when they first came out, some of them worked, some of them didn't work. And so what I've seen with those cards is, in general, they work now as a MasterCard or Visa card for online payments. But what we're talking about is not you buying something online. That we don't have a problem with the money going out, that's the easy part.
Money coming in.
The money coming in is the hard part.
But you can use the same accounts with the bank.
No, you cannot. So what would happen is that would end up being a wire transfer, and a wire transfer costs a lot more money. And so the person who's sending you the money will have to pay, and you have to pay to receive. That's how that goes. Okay. It's not going to be a simple transaction. For example, if I use my Wise account, in 4 seconds, if you have a Wise account, you have money on your account. That doesn't happen when...
There was an issue with PayPal.
There is still an issue with PayPal. So PayPal...
That would make it easier, right?
That's one of the tools, yes. PayPal used to work, no longer works, for a variety of reasons, and for a variety of reasons that has nothing to do with St. Martin. So there is the Financial Action Task Force, FATF. There's also anti-money laundering laws, AML. We have U.S. chartered banks, and in 2018, I believe it was, or 2019, the federal government of the United States of America also put higher restrictions on payment processes, that you have to have a social security number or an EIN number, because many of these bank accounts that were being opened any kind of how were connected to things like sex trafficking, drug trafficking, arms trafficking, and all the other forms of trafficking.
In this region they're talking about?
No, around the world. So in the U.S., a lot of the banks, I'm not going to call which banks, were called to task because they were just opening up accounts and not doing the proper KYC, know your customer trajectory.
Europe, it's quite a little different there too.
Yes.
So it's not that,
So what has happened, though, is because of all of this global focus on how is money moving, and is it going to the right people, and is it doing the right thing, there are stricter restrictions on us.
It affects small business.
Affects small businesses. Now, why do we have to care about these things? The Caribbean historically has been an AKA money laundering haven for many of these bigger companies and bigger countries around the world. And so what happens is that we now fall under stricter scrutiny than other places in the world.
And that's why I said earlier, it is too strict, I find, because it's still going on. I mean,
it is.
That's for a different show, but money laundering is still taking place.
Absolutely, and it is for a different show. But let me just kind of bring it back to what's happening in the modern world. What happens is that you can still set up your LLC, which is a US-based company, or you can set up an Estonian company, or you can go to the French side and open up an account, and those things will allow you access to bigger markets and other opportunities. And that's what's been happening. You also have CXPay and Centu, which are specific to the Dutch Caribbean. CXPay works fine. However, it goes through the bank. If the bank feels that you are a high risk for whatever reason, and most banks feel that startups are high risk,
yeah, exactly.
Then the answer to that is no. It's as simple as that. And so a lot of the work that we do, Oral, is also educating people about these things, because
you explain them all of that.
Yes, because what they think is that, oh my goodness, Samaritan government need to do XYZ. I spoke with Google Pay. I went to the US government. I spoke even with the royal family. This is not a problem that is a 1, 2, 3 solving problem. What we need is fintechpreneurs, people in the space who can go ahead and figure out how to solve this problem. And the minute that they solve it, they're going to have access to unlocking a whole bunch of different things. In the region, I spoke at FinTech Islands earlier on this year. In the region, there's so many different things. The challenge is that the region is a lot of different countries. So if we found one solution for as many countries as possible, then that would be the winner.
But you know, it's unfortunate though, because
it is.
For the average person, it makes it even more difficult
It is.
to start up now. You see more women than men in the business?
Yes. In fact, for Islandpreneur, 77% of our followers are women between 35 and 55.
How many?
77.
Wow.
So last year we took that data and we did programming specific for women, and that was highly successful. We were able to get a grant from the US government at the time to also do so. So that was really successful. We did it in St. Martin and in Curacao. But yes, we see an increasing number of women starting their businesses. But we also see that women are not doing it with the level of confidence and assurity that you see men doing it.
When you look back at yourself, 3, 4, 5 years, and you look at yourself now, how you feel about what you've learned over those years?
Wow. I'm proud of what I've been able to achieve so far. And at the same time, the 3, 4, 5-year-old is saying, you got a couple of things that you have not touched yet. And so we need to start working on those things.
So you made your first million?
Not yet. I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
That's good. No, a guy said you never know the exact time when you made the first million. And I always make a joke about Oprah. I said, she knew right away when she made the first one.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Just going back a little bit on AI, it is public knowledge that Mark Zuckerberg from Meta has invested very much in people who have AI skills. And so you are having workers, employees that are making $100 million as a salary, Oral, to be able to help with AI. Now, I was joking with my sister when we were talking about this. I said, I don't need 100 million. I just need a 1%, right? So I think that there is a lot of opportunity. But I think, again, it boils down to, do we believe that we are the people that can do that? Oftentimes you hear people say, oh, I just doing a small little business. Oh, I just doing a little thing. And they treat it that way, and therefore it doesn't grow, it doesn't expand, it doesn't become this thing that could offer them so many more opportunities. And oftentimes, because of that, they fail, or, well, not fail, but they have to close it up because it's not being sustained right? And so I think that right now we need to just really believe in ourselves and use the tools that are available that will allow us to scale.
Well, sometimes it comes back to knowledge. And for many of us, we don't know. We didn't come from a home where our parents had the experience in business. So it's a little more difficult for us sometimes.
Yes. And I do agree with that. I mean, we promote a lot of information for that reason. And what I still see is that I could give you all the knowledge, and if you don't believe that you're the person that could take that knowledge and run,
you got to have passion. You got to believe what you got to do.
We still at square one, right? So you'll hear people say, yeah, we come from a small island. Okay, but Monaco is a small island too. It's smaller than St. Martin. They don't think of themselves as small. The kind of numbers that they do it in Monaco are different kinds of numbers, right? Or even the Vatican, which is like 1 square mile. And imagine amount of money that goes through there. So I think when we start appreciating the value that we bring to the table and match that with the knowledge, match that with, okay, who do I need to know?
Yeah.
And also partner. We don't partner enough.
It's kind of tricky though.
Yes and no. Why? I mean, everything comes at a risk.
Yeah, but there's a level of trust that's not there.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head, Oral. We don't trust ourselves and we don't trust each other. And that's really at the bottom of the whole discussion.
And I the reason I say that, many years ago, I tried to get 2 or 3 guys together to start a business. They all said no. So I did it on my own.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to do that. And I'm not saying that everyone is cut out to do partnership, but when I look at the bigger businesses and what allows them to do big business is that they partner. So we may look at iPhone and Android phones as competitors, but on the back end, they share a lot of information. They share screens. They buy things from each other. They do all of that. And and they continue moving the needle
I ain't
forward.
gonna say nothing because I know what's going through my head, and I talk about it all the time here in the show. It's a problem we have, and we got to get over that.
We do.
If we don't get over that, we ain't going anywhere.
We do. Like we talked about Curacao and St. Martin. We don't have to go far to partner. We could partner with each other on the island. We could partner with friends and family in Anguilla, in St. Kitts, in Saba, Statia, in Curacao. Like, we don't have to go far to partner. And I think part of that is, one, valuing you and then valuing the person. And when you can value, then you can decide, okay, is this person aligned with my values? And if they are, then there is at least a baseline of trust that we could do this, right? And we're not going to say, oh, let's jump into $100 million deal one time, but at least let's do this little pilot, see how that goes, and then grow and grow and grow. That's how it works.
You know, today everybody wants to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing.
But they want to be a millionaire with a thousandaire mindset and attitude. And that's the part that doesn't work. That's the part that doesn't work.
Yeah. So when you wake up in the morning, what do you look forward to first?
Wow.
Or the most?
When I wake up in the morning, I thank God for life, because I'm in the land of the living and I've lived long enough to see people pass. And so I really appreciate that I have breath in my body. And then I live on a hill and I can have the fortunate opportunity to look out over St. Martin.
Yeah.
And so when I wake up in the morning, I thank God for life, and then I thank God for St. Martin because I live in paradise. And then right after that, I get to work. I get to create. I get to connect with people. My day usually is filled with a lot of meetings, and then hyper productivity of doing the events and the projects and things of that nature. And I'm always looking to partner with people from all over the world. So we have partners in Atlanta. We have partners in Curacao. We're doing something in Nigeria later on this year. So things are starting to expand, and so we're very excited for what the rest of 2025 is going to look like, and also 2026.
That's good. So when you reach in Nigeria and they hear Badejo, she's back home.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I cannot hide with my name, okay? My name doesn't allow me to hide in St. Martin because it's a very unique name, and so there's only one. Yeah. And it does not allow me to hide when I go back home because it is a very typical Yoruba name. And in the name, there's a lot of meaning, so they can spot me already. They know exactly who I am, where I'm from, and all of that good stuff. So,
do you speak it?
No, unfortunately, not fluently. So I know a few words.
Yeah.
But that's the extent of it.
Nigeria is an amazing country. A lot of different languages in that country.
It is. It's over 1,000 languages, over 1,000 ethnic groups. The country is 200 million people right now.
The largest populated country in Africa, right?
Yes. The city of Lagos has more people in it than the country of the Netherlands. Let that sink in.
Yeah. I know.
However, I say it like this: if you want to be a millionaire, you go to the U.S. or Europe. If you want to be a billionaire with a B, you go to Africa.
There's a lot in
There's
Nigeria
a
now.
lot of things going on in Africa. In fact, Nigeria right now is a tech hub and tech center of the entire continent. There's so many different things that are happening there. So I'm excited to be there. I haven't been there for a while. And I'm excited to see with my own eyes what's happening and connect and create other opportunities. I think also with what's happening geopolitically, I think we have an opportunity to also work more together in the region, in the Caribbean region, but also work together with Africa. I think that there's
That's beautiful, huh?
Yes, I
But
think
we're
that
so close and so far.
Yeah.
We need to go so far to get to Africa while we can just cross the ocean, one flight straight across. We can't get that.
Yeah, no. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
I know a few people that have been working on it. Yeah, not yet, at least. But what I'm seeing is St. Lucia had something
Antigua
recently.
did it sometime too.
Antigua did it sometime recently. Barbados is dealing with Africa in different ways. So Africa is also interested in the Caribbean, and the Caribbean should be interested in Africa. We have a lot to offer them as well, not just what they have to offer us. So there's some opportunities there.
So, looking at your business and what you're doing, what next for Ife Badejo?
Wow, Oral. That's another question I have not been asked. Usually it's what's next for my business. What's next for me is really enjoying this phase. I did a lot of building. And I know what works and what doesn't work. And so from a business perspective, building out the systems, embedding AI, automation, that type of a thing. What's next for me? More travel, more opportunities to help others and help to change lives. And what's next for me is I still feel like I'm getting started. So it's going to be the best year yet.
Are you enjoying it?
Yes.
That's the most important thing.
Yes, yes.
I want to wish you much success.
Thank you so much for having me.
We can have you back sometime in the future, all right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Miss Ife Badejo of Islandpreneur. She is founder, CEO, chairlady, everything. Islandpreneur. Check her out. And that's it for now on Speaking About Everything. YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio. See you next time. Take care. Bye.